Sing for us, blind boy." The words sliced the air like a whip. The laughter that followed was louder than thunder, crashing against Jordan's ears. He felt every chuckle, every snicker, every whispered insult, as though the walls of the classroom had turned into a cage where he was the prisoner, the entertainment, the fool. Jordan clutched his backpack straps so tightly his knuckles turned white. His eyes, clouded by the blindness he had carried since birth, couldn't see the faces twisted with mockery around him. But he could hear them. He could feel the cruelty in the air. Another voice rose, sharper than the rest. "Yeah. Stand up, Jordan. Show us how it's done. Maybe you'll hit the wrong note. Oh wait, you can't even see the piano keys." The laughter exploded again. Jordan's lips trembled. He wanted to run, to disappear, to shrink into himself until nothing was left. But he knew it wouldn't matter. They would find him in the hallways, at lunch, even on the bus ride home. This was his life, mockery served daily, cruelty handed out for free. And the worst part? The teacher didn't stop them. Miss Carter leaned back against her desk, arms crossed, watching with an expression that wasn't disgust, wasn't shock. No, it was amusement. A faint smirk tugged at her lips, as though she too wanted to see the joke play out. "Go on," she said coldly. "Let's hear you. Sing for us, or admit you're just as useless as they say." The room went silent for a split second, waiting. Then, the laughter roared back, feeding off the teacher's approval like wolves encouraged by their master. Jordan's knees buckled. His chest burned, every breath like fire. But under the humiliation, beneath the fear, something else stirred. A memory of his mother's voice, soft and steady, whispering to him when the world felt too cruel. "You don't need eyes to shine, Jordan. God gave you a gift they can never take away. One day, when you open your mouth, they'll listen. They won't laugh. They'll listen." The words echoed now, louder than the taunts. And slowly, deliberately, Jordan rose to his feet. The room hushed. Maybe they expected him to stumble. Maybe they thought he would cry, or beg, or fall apart. But Jordan stood tall, his blind eyes fixed on a horizon only he could see. His lips parted. And then he sang. The first notes spilled into the air like light breaking through a storm. Pure. Haunting. Stronger than any voice the room had ever heard. The laughter died instantly. Every sneer froze on every face. Even Miss Carter's smirk faltered, her eyes widening with something she hadn't felt in years, shock. Jordan's voice climbed higher, smoother, richer, weaving through the silence like silk. The cruelest bullies, boys who had shoved him into lockers, girls who had whispered behind his back, sat frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. Because in that moment, the blind boy they mocked was no longer the victim. He was the voice of something greater. But just as the class began to fall into a stunned silence, the door opened. And standing in the doorway, clutching a leather notebook, was the school principal. His eyes darted across the classroom, landing on Jordan. And for a moment, the expression on his face wasn't annoyance at a disruption. It was something else. Recognition. And in that recognition, a dangerous spark flickered. Jordan's voice carried on, unaware that the man in the doorway wasn't just listening. He was remembering. And what he remembered could change Jordan's life forever. The last note of Jordan's song lingered in the air, trembling like a fragile flame. When it ended, the room was dead silent. No laughter, no whispers, no cruel smirks, only silence, and eyes wide with disbelief. Then, a single clap broke it. It was slow, deliberate, echoing off the walls. Everyone turned. The principal. His hands came together again, louder this time. A smirk tugged at his lips. Not the cruel kind the students wore, but something heavier. Something calculated. "Well, well," he said. His voice was smooth, dangerous, almost too calm. "It seems our little joke turned into quite the performance." Jordan froze, clutching the edge of his desk. He didn't understand why the man's voice carried such weight, why it made the back of his neck prickle with unease. The principal stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click. The air in the room thickened, heavy and tense. "Jordan," he said, his eyes locked on the blind boy. "That voice of yours, do you even know what it could do?" The students glanced at each other, confused, but no one dared to laugh now. Because they all felt it too. Something had shifted. Something dangerous. And deep down, Jordan knew. His life would never be the same again. The principal knows something about Jordan's voice. Something Jordan himself doesn't yet understand. And his reaction isn't admiration, it's calculation. If you thought this was just about a blind boy proving his bullies wrong, you're mistaken. Because the principal has a secret, and it's about to drag Jordan into something far bigger and far darker than anyone in this classroom could imagine. Stay with me, because what happens next will leave you breathless. And if you don't want to miss it, hit subscribe now and tell me in the comments, did you feel goosebumps when Jordan sang that first note? The silence after Jordan's song was suffocating. Every student sat frozen, every cruel laugh from before now replaced with stunned disbelief. But the weight of the moment wasn't in their stares. It was in the man at the door. The principal. His shoes clicked against the floor as he walked forward, slow, deliberate, each step like the tick of a clock counting down to something inevitable. Jordan's breath caught in his throat, his fingers gripping the desk until they ached. "You," the principal said softly, stopping just feet away. "That voice. Do you know what you've just done?" Jordan shook his head slowly. I was just singing." The room erupted in nervous murmurs, but the principal silenced them with a single glance. His eyes, cold, sharp, calculating, returned to Jordan. "Just singing," he echoed, almost mocking. "Boy, people have built empires on less. Do you have any idea what a voice like yours is worth?" Jordan swallowed hard, his chest tight. He didn't know what to say. He didn't understand why this man spoke with such intensity, why every word dripped with something heavier than praise. Then, suddenly, the principal's tone shifted, gentle, persuasive. "Tell me, Jordan, who taught you to sing like that? Your mother? A church choir?" Jordan's lips parted, but before he could answer, a voice cut through the silence. "Leave him alone." Everyone turned. It was Mia, the only student who had never mocked Jordan. She was standing now, fists clenched at her sides, her small frame trembling but defiant. The principal's brows lifted slightly, amused. "And who are you to interrupt?" "Someone who's not blind to what's happening here," Mia shot back. "You don't care about Jordan. You care about his voice. I can see it in your face." A ripple of shock went through the room. No one ever talked back to the principal. But the man only smirked. Sharp little tongue. "But you're wrong." His eyes flicked back to Jordan. "I care because that voice, it's rare. Uncanny. I've only heard something like it once before." Jordan's brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" The principal's smirk faded, replaced by something darker. He leaned closer, his voice low, but sharp enough for everyone to hear. "Your voice is almost identical to a man I once knew. A man who destroyed everything." The words hung in the air like poison. Jordan's chest tightened. He didn't understand. How could his singing remind this man of someone else? Someone dangerous? Before he could ask, the bell rang, shrill and jarring. Students scrambled for their bags, desperate to escape the tension suffocating the room. But Jordan didn't move. He couldn't. His legs felt rooted to the ground. The principal leaned closer, whispering now, his words chilling. "Come to my office after school. We need to talk." And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving the classroom buzzing with nervous energy. Jordan sank back into his seat, his hands trembling. Mia slid into the desk beside him, her voice urgent. "Don't go," she whispered. "Whatever he wants, it's not good." But Jordan, he wasn't sure. Because deep inside, beneath the fear, a strange pull tugged at him. What did the principal mean? Who was this man his voice resembled? And why did he sound so afraid? The rest of the school day was a blur. Jordan barely heard the lessons, barely tasted his lunch. His mind replayed the principal's words again and again. "Destroyed everything. Identical. Come to my office." By the time the final bell rang, his decision was made. He had to know. The hallways were almost empty when Jordan found himself standing before the heavy wooden door of the principal's office. His hand hovered over the handle, his heart pounding so hard it echoed in his ears. He pushed it open. The room was dim, the blinds drawn, the air thick with the smell of old books and leather. The principal sat behind his desk, a file open in front of him. "Close the door," he said without looking up. Jordan obeyed, the soft click of the door sounding like a lock sealing shut. "Sit." Jordan found the chair across from the desk, his fingers trembling as he lowered himself into it. Finally, the principal lifted his gaze. His eyes locked onto Jordan's blind ones with unnerving intensity. "I'll get straight to the point," he said. "Do you know who your father is?" Jordan froze. My father?" The principal leaned forward, steepling his fingers. "Yes. Your mother ever tell you?" Jordan shook his head. "No. She said he left before I was born." The principal's lips curved into something between a smirk and a grimace. "Of course she did." He turned the file toward Jordan, though the boy couldn't see it. Inside was a faded photograph of a man with sharp features, piercing eyes, and a microphone in his hand. "This man," the principal said softly, was Elijah Cross, one of the most gifted singers the world had ever known. A legend, but also a monster. Jordan's breath hitched. Monster? The principal's eyes darkened. He had a voice that could bring people to tears, could make crowds lose their minds. But behind the curtain, he destroyed lives. Manipulated. Betrayed. Ruined careers. And in the end, he vanished. No one ever saw him again. Jordan's chest tightened, his pulse racing. What does that have to do with me? The principal leaned even closer, his voice low, dangerous. Because Jordan, Elijah Cross is your father. The words hit like a lightning strike. Jordan's world tilted, his breath shallow, his mind screaming no, no, no. But the principal's gaze didn't waver. I knew at the moment I heard you sing. The same tone, the same power. And if the world finds out who you really are, you'll either be worshipped or destroyed. Just like him. Jordan's stomach twisted. He wanted to scream, to deny it, to run. But something inside him, deep, unshakable, whispered that it might be true. And then the principal leaned back, his expression sharp, calculating again. You have two choices, Jordan. Keep that voice hidden, or let me help you use it. The right way, before it destroys you like it destroyed him. Jordan's throat was dry, his mind a storm of fear and disbelief. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but only one stumbled out. Why are you telling me this? The principal's smirk returned, colder this time. Because, Jordan, if you're truly Elijah's son, then you don't just have a gift. You have a curse. And sooner or later, someone else will come looking for you. A knock suddenly rattled the office door, sharp and urgent. The principal's eyes flicked to it, then back to Jordan, his voice dropping to a whisper. They might already be here. Jordan learns the shocking truth, that his voice is tied to a dark legacy, his father Elijah Cross. But before he can process it, a mysterious knock suggests danger is already at the door. If you thought Jordan's song was the climax, you're wrong. This was only the beginning. His father's shadow is darker than anyone imagined, and the knock at that office door? It's the start of a storm that will change everything. Don't miss what happens next. Smash that subscribe button, hit like if Jordan's courage already inspired you, and tell me in the comments, would you trust the principal, or run? The knock came again, louder, sharper, as though whoever stood outside was growing impatient. Jordan's stomach flipped, his breath catching in his throat. The principal's eyes darted toward the door, then back at Jordan, his expression hard. Stay quiet, he whispered. Not a word. The handle jiggled. A voice, low, authoritative, spoke from the other side. Principal Harris, open the door. Now! Jordan's pulse pounded in his ears. He couldn't see the face beyond the door, but something about that voice carried weight, danger, and a strange familiarity he couldn't place. The principal hesitated, his jaw tight, before finally rising to his feet. He smoothed his tie, masking whatever unease lingered in his eyes, and unlocked the door. It creaked open. 2 men in dark suits stepped inside. Their presence was suffocating, their movements precise, rehearsed. The taller one carried a slim briefcase. The shorter, broader one scanned the room with cold, assessing eyes. Mr. Harris, the tall man said smoothly. I believe you have something, or rather, someone, that belongs to us. Jordan's chest clenched. Belongs? What did that mean? Principal Harris stiffened. This is my school. You don't storm in here, making demands. The shorter man stepped closer, his gaze locking on Jordan. Though the boy couldn't see it, he felt the stare like a weight pressing into his skin. Looks just like him, the man murmured. The tall one's lips curled into a chilling smile. And sounds just like him, too, isn't that right, Jordan? Jordan's breath caught. Who are you? What do you want from me? The man's smile widened. We want the same thing everyone will, once they know who you are. Your voice. Your bloodline. Your Elijah Cross's legacy. And we've been waiting for you. Jordan froze, his hands gripping the arms of his chair. My father? You knew him? The taller man chuckled. Knew him? We made him. Elijah Cross wouldn't have been a star without us. We gave him stages, money, fame. And in return, he gave us everything. Until he betrayed us. The shorter man's voice was a growl. Now the son will pay the debt. Jordan's heart hammered, his throat dry. I didn't ask for this. I don't even know him. The tall man leaned down, his face inches from Jordan's. That doesn't matter. Your voice is his gift, and his curse. And you'll use it for us, or you'll end up exactly where he did. Principal Harris slammed his hand on the desk, his voice sharp. Enough. You're not taking him. Not from my school. The tall man turned his cold gaze on the principal. Stay out of this, Harris. You remember what happened last time you interfered. Jordan's brows knit in confusion. Last time? What did they mean? But Harris didn't flinch. This boy isn't yours. Not now, not ever. For a moment, silence filled the office. The two men stared at Harris, the tension thick enough to choke on. Then slowly, the tall one straightened, his smile fading into a thin line. Very well. But this isn't over. We'll be back. The shorter one gave Jordan one last piercing stare, before following his partner out. The door shut behind them with a final, echoing click. Jordan let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding, his body trembling. Who were they? He whispered. Principal Harris sank back into his chair, rubbing his temples. The past catching up, he muttered. Jordan leaned forward, desperate. Tell me, who were they? Harris's eyes lifted, heavy with something between guilt and fear. They're called the Syndicate, a powerful group that controlled Elijah and destroyed him when he defied them. If they know about you, Jordan, your life is no longer your own. Jordan's skin prickled with cold. The words felt unreal, too big for him to carry. But deep inside, something told him it was the truth. So what do I do? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Harris's gaze hardened. You run. And you never stop. Jordan's throat tightened. Run? From who? From what? He wanted answers, not fear. But before he could speak again, the intercom crackled suddenly, filling the room with static. Then a voice, distorted but chillingly clear. We'll be watching you, Jordan. Every note. Every breath. You belong to us. The sound cut off, leaving the office in suffocating silence. Jordan's chest heaved, his palms slick with sweat. They're everywhere, he whispered. Harris nodded grimly. And they won't stop until they own you. Or destroy you. Jordan's heart thundered. He felt trapped, like the walls were closing in. The revelation of his father, the Syndicate's threat, the weight of a legacy he never asked for. It was too much. But even as fear consumed him, a flicker of defiance sparked inside. No, he said quietly, his voice trembling but firming with every word. I'm not him. I'm not my father. I won't let them decide who I am. Harris's eyes softened, but his voice stayed heavy. Then you'd better be ready to fight, Jordan. Because they're already moving against you. And as if to prove his words, the sound of glass shattering echoed faintly from the far end of the hallway. Shouts followed, muffled but urgent. Jordan stiffened. Harris leapt to his feet, his face pale. They're here. The Syndicate has found Jordan. The school is no longer safe. Every second is danger. If you thought Jordan's gift was his blessing, now you see it's also his greatest curse. The Syndicate won't stop. They'll break down every door, shatter every wall, until they have him. What would you do if you discovered your talent was the reason enemies hunted you? Run, fight, or surrender? Comment below. I'm reading them all. And make sure you're subscribed, because next we'll reveal the truth about Elijah's fate, and whether Jordan survives the night. The sound of shattering glass was followed by footsteps. Fast, heavy, relentless. Jordan's heart pounded in his chest, his hands gripping the edge of the desk as the echoes grew louder. Principal Harris grabbed his arm. Jordan, we need to move. Now. The boy stumbled to his feet, his cane sweeping in front of him, but the older man didn't wait. He guided Jordan out of the office, urgency in every movement. The hallway was alive with chaos. Lockers rattling, doors slamming, shouts bouncing off the walls. Jordan couldn't see the figures storming the school, but he felt them. The vibrations of boots against the tile floor, the rush of air as doors burst open, the sharp static of radios crackling. They're closing in, Jordan whispered, panic rising. Keep moving, Harris said, his voice firm but trembling beneath the surface. There's one place they won't think to look. The music room. They darted down a corridor, Harris pulling Jordan along. The boy's chest heaved, his thoughts spinning. His father's name, the Syndicate's threat, the crushing truth of a legacy he never wanted. It all blurred into the pounding rhythm of his heartbeat. At last, Harris pushed open a door and ushered Jordan inside. The familiar scent of polished wood and brass instruments wrapped around him. Jordan's fingers brushed against a piano's edge, grounding him in the one place that had always felt like home. But safety was an illusion. Even here, he could hear them, voices barking orders, footsteps growing nearer. Harris, Jordan said, his throat tight. We can't just hide. They'll find us. The principal exhaled heavily. You're right. But maybe we can buy time. Enough for you to escape. Escape where? Jordan shot back. They're everywhere. Before Harris could answer, a chilling voice rang out through the school's PA system. Jordan Cross, come out, wherever you are. You can't hide forever. Your father thought he could. And you know what happened to him. Jordan froze, his blood running cold. The voice chuckled. Sing for us, boy. Just one note. That's all it takes. We'll find you. The speakers crackled into silence. Jordan's body trembled. They wanted his voice. The one thing that had always brought him comfort, now twisted into a weapon against him. Don't listen, Harris said, gripping his shoulder. That's how they control you. How they controlled Elijah. They make you believe your gift is a curse. Jordan swallowed hard, his throat aching with unspoken words. But maybe it is. Before Harris could reply, the door burst open. Shadows filled the room. 2 men in black suits, guns gleaming under the dim light. End of the line, one of them growled. Harris stepped in front of Jordan, his arms spread wide. You'll have to go through me. The shorter man sneered. Gladly. He raised his weapon. Stop. Jordan's voice cut through the room, raw, desperate, powerful. Both men froze mid-step. Their grips faltered. The air itself seemed to vibrate, charged with invisible electricity. Jordan stood taller, his fists clenched. He didn't fully understand it, but he felt it. His voice wasn't just sound. It carried weight. Command. Something deeper than words. The men staggered back, confusion flashing across their faces. What is this? One muttered, his voice trembling. Jordan's chest heaved. You wanted my voice? He said, his tone steadying. Here it is. He began to sing, not softly, not hesitantly, but with a force that shook the walls. The melody poured from him, rich and commanding, filling every corner of the room. The syndicate men clutched their heads, stumbling. Instruments rattled on their stands, the piano strings vibrating in sympathy. It wasn't just music. It was power. When Jordan's voice cut off, the room fell into silence. The men collapsed, unconscious. Jordan's knees buckled, his body drained, but Harris caught him. You did it, the principal whispered, awe in his voice. Jordan shook his head. No, they'll be back. Stronger. And he was right. Because at that moment, a slow clap echoed from the doorway. A new figure stepped inside, taller, sharper, exuding authority. His presence swallowed the room whole. Well done, Jordan, the man said, his voice smooth but venomous. Your father would be proud. But do you know why he really disappeared? Jordan's breath caught. You killed him. The man smiled thinly. Oh no. He killed himself, trying to keep you safe. You were his final song, Jordan. His legacy. And now you belong to us. The boy's heart cracked, grief and rage colliding. His father hadn't abandoned him. He had sacrificed everything. And now the syndicate wanted to twist that sacrifice into chains. No, Jordan said, his voice trembling but fierce. I'm not your weapon. I'm not your curse. I am me. The man's smile vanished. Then prove it. Sing for me. Or Harris dies. He pulled a gun, pressing it to the principal's temple. Jordan's chest heaved, his mind racing. If he sang, he'd feed their power. If he refused, Harris would die. The man cocked the gun. 3-2. Stop. Jordan shouted again, but this time not with fear, with resolve. His voice soared, pouring every ounce of pain, love, and defiance into the air. The sound shattered the lights overhead. Windows exploded outward. The syndicate leader stumbled, his weapon flying from his grip as the sheer force of Jordan's song knocked him to his knees. Harris dragged Jordan back, shielding him as the entire room trembled. The leader screamed, clutching his ears, before collapsing in a heap. When the echoes faded, silence reigned. Jordan stood trembling, every nerve in his body on fire. He turned toward the fallen man. Tell your syndicate, he whispered, his voice hoarse. I'm not my father's shadow. I'm his light. The man groaned, defeated, as Harris pulled Jordan out into the night. But outside, the sky was lit with headlights. Black cars lined the street. Figures in suits stepped out, dozens of them. The syndicate wasn't beaten. Not yet. Jordan's breath hitched. There's too many. Harris gripped his shoulder. Then we'll make them listen. Together. Jordan lifted his chin. He wasn't running anymore. He opened his mouth, and the screen cut to black. The war isn't over. Jordan has power, but against an army, will it save him or destroy him? Jordan's voice shook walls, shattered glass, and broke the syndicate's grip for a moment. But now the fight has only begun. Would you risk your life to protect a gift that makes you hunted? Or would you stay silent to survive? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear them. And if you felt the power in Jordan's journey, hit subscribe right now, because the next story will take you even deeper into the battles of hidden legacies, power, and survival. Don't miss it.